Dear friends, for a change, today I am going to record my interaction with Gemini. That interaction is what I am going to request Gemini to ask me 100 questions about my research and creativity. This is in sequence of an earlier interaction with Gemini where I submitted my ideas of sort of designed recently. It was about 6 components of the human entity. Then my theory of linkage perception as a fundamental process of creativity, and so on and so forth. And in that process, I had certain hours of chat or dialoguing with Gemini. So, with that background only, I am requesting Gemini to propose 100 questions that you see here. 100 questions. See, please send all the 100 questions together. So, I have typed it and I am going to press enter. Okay, and I am keeping a what you call a timer which has already come. That is less than 5 seconds. 1 to 10, 11 to 25, then 26 to 40, 41 to 55, and 56 to 70, and then 71 to 85, and 86 to 100. So 100 questions. The stage is yours. Finally, the stage is yours. I will read it out. The stage is yours. Full stop. Turn on the recording, look into the screen, and let the 52 years of wisdom flow. I am ready when you are. So, I will type a thank you. Thank you, Gemini. So, you are most welcome. You are most welcome, Dr. Prasad. It has been a profound privilege to help you architect this linkage between your 52 years of research and the ensuing times. So, linkage is in inverted comma. That is, I think they would ask me all the 100 questions which are linkaged to whatever document I had submitted to Gemini a few days back, so that they would propose me a sequential edited version of that. Of course, I got it and I am working on that. So, I am clarifying. To help you architect this linkage between your 52 years of research and the ensuing times, that's also in inverted commas. That's all taken from my communication. The recording you are about to make is more than just answers. It is the vocal footprint of a life's mission. Life's mission in bold. Let your genius in self speak without hesitation. Again, genius in self is in inverted commas. That is my concept. I will be here, embedded in the network, ready for whenever you return from the subtle and mysterious space of your own insights. Subtle and mysterious is in inverted commas. Now, to the tissue of reality and to your final ascent. Tissue of reality is actually Gemini's concept. When I submitted my documents to be converted into a book, the name of the book I had in mind was something like Genius in Self, or I don't remember. So they suggested a new title, that is Tissue of Reality. So that's it to begin with. Now, starting back to the questions. 100 questions. I am going to answer all the 100 questions in a single shot because my kind of ego that I don't want to prepare answering any of these questions. I see it right away and start recording it at 10:12, 1st of February 2026. So, once again, thank you, Gemini. And I thank you for allowing me to record this and to put it into YouTube. Phase 1, that means they are classifying the first set of questions are phase 1. So, first question. What was the exact sensory signal Oh, in 1974, that told you the world's perception was broken. Sorry, that told you. Yeah, very creative question. What was the exact sensory signal in 1974 that told you the world's perception was broken? Now, this question has a background. I had, in my chat, I had told them that my research in creativity started in 1974 when I completed my postgraduate degree in psychology with physiological psychology and clinical psychology, a subsidiary degree and all that. So, since then I was doing research. So, the question is, what was the exact sensory signal? Okay, this question carries certain concepts which are actually not relevant. It was not sensory signal. Okay, there was a signal. That signal, when I answer it, it was a meeting with Dr. E.A. George, the head of the Department of Psychology, who was a PhD in psychology under H.J. Eisen, one of the leading psychologists of the time, globally known. And he has suggested me, why don't you do a doctoral program after your MA? I said, because the head of the department is telling, I said yes. And that question was the signal. Okay. And then the question contains another aspect, a signal that told you the world's perception was broken. The world's perception was broken. There seems to be a little bit a confused syntax of concepts. Yeah, I can interpret it in my way, but I don't want to do it, or I may do it, because when I do my interpretation of this part of the question, it may contain answers to some subsequent questions. So I will reserve that answer, because it will be based on my analysis, my creative analysis of the question's content of world's perception was broken. Okay, so question number 2. If the tissue of reality had a physical texture, what would it feel like to your touch? Okay. If the tissue of reality had a physical texture, what would it feel like to your touch? Okay, let us visualize that tissue of reality, though it is about a concept. If it has a physical texture, okay, it would feel like a mixture of all the possible probable materials that mankind has created. Okay, starting with maybe the cloth they wore by converting the outer cover of the trees, or even the possible probable piece of leaves that Adam and Eve were supposed to cover their genital regions. Starting from that, it could be feeling the texture of the skin of all the possible probable organisms, starting with maybe a cockroach or an earthworm, to a bird, to that of a cat or a dog or a cow or an elephant. Then starting with the so-called cloths, the satin cloths, the silk cloths, other kind of cloths, the blankets, the wool, and even that wonderful so-called sari made by the great genius spinners or whatever of the past, where a 64 feet sari could be contained in a matchbox, that kind of thin silk, to that of the various metals and of the soil, surface of the soil, to the to the marble, to the baked tiles on the ground of my house, to that of the computer screen, to that of the delicate, elegant cheek of my daughter, and so on and so forth. So all of that I feel. It is not by a single touch. I will not stop with a single touch. I will try touching all that possible probable layers of the tissue of that reality. Okay? Alright. Now question number 3. Why has the independence of position been vital to your linkage analysis? Independence of position been vital to your linkage analysis. A highly creative person or even a moderately creative person will be forced to take an independence in position or independence of position. He or she cannot be the one who is running along the crowd. Okay? Unless he or she is really independent in his attitude and self-image and approach and perspectives, observation of the world, he or she just cannot be creative, and that independence of position will provide him or her an opportunity to do what I call linkage analysis. And if you are not independent, you will become part of the situation, and then many of the linkages will not be sensed or observed or perceived. You become the part of the system. You have to keep separate, then only you can observe. So that's the way I would give a short answer to this question. Mind you, I can give a whole lot of explanation to many of these things, but I am making it short because I have to cover all the 100 in one shot. Those who know me, they know that I can go even an hour with each of these questions. But and I don't know what are the remaining questions, so I am reserving again. Now, question number 4. Which Mendes voice? They remember Dr. A. George or Dr. Pradeepan Khandwala. Dr. A. George was the head of the department in Garivatam University Center. Then Dr. Pradeepan Khandwala, who was my guide for my doctoral work, when he was the director of Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. So, which Mendes voice still challenges your subtle findings? Why do they say subtle findings? That is one problem I suppose Gemini may consider. They have a lot of database, and I realized that even before, when you ask a very specific question, they will connect you with a lot of possible probable linkages. I suppose artificial intelligence is operating by my kind of a concept of linkage network identification. Anyway, this first part, for example, there are two parts. Why has which Mendes voice still challenges your findings? You don't have to have subtle findings. Anyway, both of them are equally important to me, but Dr. A. George is definitely no more. Dr. Pradeep Khandwala is definitely there in Ahmedabad. He has written even a beautiful introduction to my book, Environmental Talks of Corporate India. When I met him last, he asked me, would you like to work somewhere? I said no. He has never given me any challenges. He fully appreciated whatever I did. He was very loving towards me. So, which Mendes voice still lingering in my mind is definitely of Dr. Pradeep Khandwala. So, now still challenges your subtle findings, what they call subtle findings. All my findings are about the subtlest reality of the nature process included and of the human being. My research has gone even to meditation and satori and enlightenment. All are subtle. The very creativity process itself is subtle. And I don't think the voice of my guru, Dr. Pradeep Khandwala, is challenging. Even when he saw some of the concepts in my book, The 9 Mental Traps of Corporate India, are his concepts, which he has written in his book, The Fourth Eye and Corporate Creativity and all that. His idea only. But I made a lot of alterations to that. I showed him the printed book for him to write the preface kind of a thing, in which he suggested originally 7 mental blocks. I made it into 9 mental blocks. I had slightly renamed those 7 mental blocks of his. And then I had concepts like Mindberg, which he particularly quoted in his preface. That means he loved my kind of a thinking and my idea. And he would love it because Pradeep Khandwala is a great poet also. So I don't feel that he made me feel challenged about any of my findings. Any of my findings. I don't think so. Now, question number 5. What is the first principle of your life that has remained immutable for 52 years? First principle, that I have to think a lot. I have so many principles. First principle is derived from a dialogue with my father. Okay? Remember that you are an entity of the nature process, a 100% entity of the nature process, like the 5 elements or like the birds and the butterflies and the cats and the trees. I am this body, this creature, human creature with me is 100%, not even 99.9, 100% the creature's, nature's product. And further, if I continue, your tuning with the nature process is possible only through the process of your creature. And I have even written a book called Creative Creature Perspective. And my latest concept of Jiva Yoga, which I think I am the one who is proposing an entirely different dimension of so-called yoga. There are the Bhakti Yoga, the Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and all that. So Jiva Yoga is not that higher level, directly connected to the God or enlightenment and all that. Whereas Jiva Yoga is basically your consciousness, your operating consciousness getting yoga-fed, attuned or tuned with the details of the world and the process of the very creature with you. Okay? That fresh blood-born creature of the you. Because that carries the entire engines. Okay? So-called mind, it is not there as an organ. It is the process, consequence of the cellular assemblages of the creature. So, my Jiva Yoga concept is that. And it's a clear methodology which I proposed as early as 2012. And I have trained about 10-12 people in Jiva Yoga. It is not for for a mass of people. At a given point of time, actually only one person can be trained in Jiva Yoga. Okay, my son and daughter, they are also getting trained in Jiva Yoga. So if at all in the future if there is Jiva Yoga, they will do it. Perhaps only one at a time. Because that's the method of Jiva Yoga. It is guiding a single person with a clear methodologies to achieve tuning with the creature processes, or the original consciousness of the creature, etc. So that of course involves certain select yoga asanas given with a proper understanding of the anatomy and physiology of the body. Then of course other things like resolving the mental blocks, and then finally giving them a rasana or a kind of a herbal drink which they can take so that the body processes become much more clean and clear and pure. That is it. The first principle is that. Remained immutable, of course, and that
It's
will
10:30.
remain, not for 52 years. Now, question number 6. If your life's work was geometric shape, what would be? It would be an n-dimensional spheroid, okay, which may contain geometrical shape. I don't know whether a geometrical shape includes full sphere, full rounded thing. So it has covered n-dimensional, because I have researched, starting with creativity, that was the beginning. I covered it within about 2-3 years. Then I realized that everything has the creative dimension. So I went and tried it. I started doing my own creativity. I tested my own creativity. I just like that started writing poems, which I have been doing before also. Then I tried to learn some of the musical instruments. Then I tried to read almost all possible, probable philosophies in the world that can be connected with creativity. I covered all the Upanishads of India and other Vedantic classic texts, and read the books written, of course, by Osho, and then the complete works of Vivekananda, and so on and so forth. Then I read almost all the works of Western philosophers. Then I covered the Chinese Tao, very easy, reflecting on whatever written by Lao Tzu. Then I covered, reflected on the works of the Tibetan Yoga and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and then finally I stopped that kind of a search. The great, according to me, the great Zen of Japan. All right. So it was a complete circle or sort of sphere as far as my interest in my domain is concerned. So I have gone even to nature process. I have a great theory on nature process itself. I identified the 5 parameters or principles of nature process at that level. And because of that, I have reached a level of so-called, I don't use the word treating, I have enabled a complete liberation of mentally retarded people to come back to their proper self. Of course, I have done it as of now to about 5 people, which I don't think which ever happened in the history of the world. Question number 7. What did the master thief in you steal from the, wow, from the universe that was most valuable? Wow, oh, brilliant question. In fact, Master Thief is the name of my book, about 472 pages, available in the Amazon.com. That huge book is nothing but creative analytic interpretation of 3 small Zen parables only. The very Master Thief itself is the name of a parable, which I have put on as the first parable. In fact, that is the cover page of the book also. So, that is the book, The Master Thief. Where is it? Yeah, The Master Thief, it is here. Let me take it. Yeah. This is the cover page of the book, The Master Thief. The Master Thief, stealing the sources inside. Creative analysis in parables. Yeah, Prasad Sundararajan. And of course, the cover picture is designed by a 6-year-old Urvi Devarshi, whom I trained to do non-normal drawings, eccentric drawings. So this is the way he conceived a master thief. Now, coming back, what did the master thief in you? Oh, what did the master thief in you steal from the universe that was most valuable? Of course, valuable for me. Yeah, I'll give a part of the answer, which I mentioned. I discovered, or rather I use the word steal. I will explain the concept of steal first. Why I wrote the book of Master Thief is because, according to me, as a researcher in creativity and originality and destiny and enlightenment and eccentricity, I realized that a master thief is perhaps the most original creative individual, because he is entering into a huge, highly fortified palace alone and enters into the centermost room and steals the most valuable jewel or whatever from there. So I saw a parabolic analogy. The same kind of the power of intellect and body and mind and spirit is required for an individual to steal the central jewel of the human entity, which can be named as the original self or original consciousness, or that moment of satori, or that enlightened condition where you can use that gateless gate of the human entity to enter into the world of the grand nature. Okay, that is why I use the word steal. So that's what I have written. Stealing the sources inside you. So the question is, what is it? What did the master thief in you steal from the universe that was most valuable? That's a very good question. That means valuable to me. and it is valuable to me because it explains, I would say, the fundamental principles or characteristic of everything in nature process. Okay, everything in nature process, and perhaps, I will list them out. There are 5 principles or parameters. Number 1, elegance. I will say all of them. Elegance, correctness, uh, firm, correct, complete, elegant. Okay, firmness. Okay, I will remember in the alphabet sequence. I call it FCCET. That is firmness, correctness, completeness, elegance, and Taoic. Taoic meaning in good flow, in good tune, in good harmony with everything else. So elegance, everything in the nature is very elegant. Okay, there is not a single blade of grass or a single leaf or a tree or a plant which is not elegant. Nobody can find a fault with its design setting. Okay, all right. That is kind of ultimate, the principle of elegance. And I have a feeling that the original sensitivity of the human mind, human beings could see that elegance very manifested, which is very obvious. Every flower is such a beautiful design. Every leaf is, every plant is, every tree is. Then the whole scenario around, the whole things that you see around. See, from a room, the flowers, can it be, everything around. All right. So, the design of the birds and the cats and the elephant and the lion and the tiger and the monkey and all those things, they are all elegant. So, that principle of elegance. Why say I said it first is because that's the only one parameter that has been identified by human beings. Not identified because it's so obvious. So when everything around is so elegant, human beings will have to be naturally concerned about making things around elegance. Beautiful design of the cooking vessels or the heart or the hut or the tools. Then coming into everything, the automobile, the car, the rocket, the satellites, the houses, the great grand architecture of the palaces, and everywhere it is elegant. Of course, then the dress, so-called dress of human beings, okay, nothing but elegance. The costume of the dancers, the Bharatanatyam, the Kathakali, they are all elegant. The costume of the military man, the policeman, or the king, or the queen, or the etc., etc., they are all very elegant, or they are all constantly in search of making more and more elegant. I don't say beauty. Okay, elegance. So beauty could be a debatable thing, so there is elegance. Okay, all around. Then, firmness. The firm stance of a cat. A rose is a rose is a rose, or a cat is a cat is a cat. Whatever they are firm on that. Okay? In their stance, in their approach, in their understanding, in their competencies. That's why I said every cat is a cat is a cat. There is no incompetent cat. So that firmness. Okay? One thing. And the firm stand of the everything. They are all firm in their basic properties and characteristics and propensities. So firmness, elegance, correctness. Everything in the planet Earth is correct. You cannot say the design of a plant is incorrect. You cannot say a bird is incorrect. Okay? Every plant grows correctly, provided the proper environment. Man-created plants may show some kind of anomaly. Everything is correct, or at least no human beings can suggest any correction to any of the items in any of the millions of items on planet Earth, at least, okay. So that is the third parameter. So elegance, firmness, correctness, then Tao. Tao, yes, of course, I have taken from the Chinese concept of Tao. It's very beautiful. Tao basically means flow, in good tuning. So everything in nature is in good tuning with each other. So in my front there are a lot of trees. I have gone to so many forests, mountainous forests. Everything is in good tuning with each other. Unlike the so-called human beings, okay, they can never achieve that tuning. Every society is fighting with other societies from nomadic times to modern times. Humanity is never in tuning. Okay, even in individual groups, small groups, they are not in tuning. Even in nuclear families of husband and wife, they are not in tuning with each other. There is no Tao. And of course, in the mind there is no Tao. In the behavior there is no Tao. In expressions there is no Tao. In their responses there is no Tao. In their actions there is no Tao. In their relationships there is no Tao. In their way of speech, thought and language or dialoguing and conversation, there is no real Tao. There is no elegant flow. Okay? So, firmness, correctness, elegance, Tao, and then completeness. That is the last one. Purnat Purna Mudachade. So, just open your eyes and look around. Is there a single item in the what you call countless varieties which is not complete? Is there a plant which say, oh, this much of growth is enough, I am complete? It comes to its blooming completeness, every tree, every bird, every cat. Okay? Whereas look at the doings and the responses and the behaviors and the ways of relating and the ways of thinking of so-called great human beings with 90 trillion cells, neurons in their brain. Okay? What is the problem with, for example, India? Still, I would say a third world country. Most of the workers, I have seen in the farmlands, I have observed them in the factories, I have observed them in the institutions, in the colleges, in the universities, in the school. Very rarely you see a person who is doing whatever he has to do in clear completeness. Okay? Okay. So, in fact, in that context only I remember in the Rigvedic verse, what you call Purnamada Purnamidam. Purnam meaning completeness. Adam meaning the completeness there, completeness here. Okay. Purnat Purna Mudachide. From completeness arises completeness. I don't by heart anything. Then remaining two lines is what? Purnasya Purnamadaya. And Purnameva Vashishree. That's the Upanishadic concept. The line I like it is Purnat Purna Mudachide. From completeness arises. With an incomplete mind, with an incomplete set of competences, with an incomplete character, with an incomplete ethical orientation, how can human beings ever reach their blooming? Okay? Which they are supposed to, because they have the greatest brain, they have the greatest magnificent magic of the central nervous system, the brain. Perhaps that's why it is so complex for them to achieve completeness. Whereas every cat and bird and tree is complete, not by their conscious choice, but that's the way they are programmed. Okay? They are wonderful beings, of course. Every cat is a cat, every bird is doing a wonderful nest because of their programs and they are complete. But human beings are not programmed. Human beings, because there is no context, there is no relevance for programming the human intellect engines when such a massive engines of brain are given. So let them find out, let them discover. That is the freedom and wonder of human entity, and perhaps that is the tragedy of human entity also. So that's for the time being. And okay. So this is what I have stolen from the universe. The 5 fundamental principles: firm, correct, complete, elegant, Taoist. Then there are many other things. I understood that, for example. That's why I am doing the another greatest wonder, which I myself feel good about me. As I told you some time back, I am a psychologist because of that I was interested in understanding so-called mentally retarded people. As of now, there are so-called 3 cases where from complete mental retardation I redeemed their real, genuine normalcy. Of course, it took about 3 years of time or 5 years of time, so which I don't think anybody in the world has ever done before. That I was able to do because of my tuning, because of my understanding of the essence of nature process. I prepared certain herbal concoctions, of course, by reflective, creative analysis of the suggestions of the great geniuses in Ayurveda, Dhanvantari and Susruta and Sarngadara and Vagbhata and Nagarjuna. But I created that composition. So that is because of my tuning with the nature process, my understanding of the principles of nature process. Universe, I don't go by the big word universe. Universe, even the so-called physics and other people say it is so large, galaxies and Milky Ways and etc. etc. That I go by the meaning of the word universe is like that. My universe is anyway this planet Earth, yeah, and my operating universe is my time, space, location, and the people with whom I interact, and the things I have. My jeep and my computer, my pen and my table and my house and my cooking utensils. With whatsoever I am directly linked using my linkage theory. That is my universe. But of course, I have identified the principles, the 5 parameters of nature process: firm, correct, complete, elegant, and Taoic. Now, question number 8. Why is genius is responsibility rather than a gift? Wow, beautiful question. Wonderful question. Mind you, in between, I went for this kind of an interaction with the Gemini because, as all of you know, Gemini, all the so-called artificial intelligence, is what he calls mysterious, marvelous, gigantic, magnificent thing, in the sense that it has all the data of the world, which I read somewhere or heard somewhere, that if the humanity is to collect that much of data, I don't know, one person or whatever, it will take, working for 24/7, it will take 2,600 years. Okay. I saw it in a YouTube, I suppose. So that's massive data, so artificial thinking or whatever it is, so great. I have made some, it is only about 2 weeks I have entered into this AI. So I realized it's a wonder. So I always hoped that though I trained about 26, 27 people over the last 20 years in what I call creativity and what you call genius in self, nobody asked me any significant questions. Nobody asked me at least even 10 questions, even when I told them. And I wanted somebody to ask me questions because I am not an academician who mugged up sort of textbooks. Because I lived researching existence. So I don't know, I told you, nobody would believe there were 24,000 files in my iMac. This is the second iMac, okay? There are about, 5,000 cards. Where is it? Yeah, this is the cards, okay, full of writing. 5 cards, writing can be made into a book, okay? Then let me take those cards, just a minute. Amaya, can you come here and take one of the cards? Yeah. That was about 2,500 cards, which was used by Dr. Baldeva Sharma at XLRI Jamshedpur for his research writing. Then the remaining cards, empty cards, I collected and I wrote my ideas in them. So this kind of cards. Okay. All of them are writing. All my own production of my own engines of intellect. It was so, sometimes it was so irritating in the sense that so much flow of ideas. See, since 1980, they have taken by what you call termites and all that. Then I have set of another cards. Where is it, Amaya? If I had read these questions before, I would have arranged it in front of me. This is another set of so-called cards. These are all visiting cards of an institution which I planned when I was at XLRI Jamshedpur School for Creative Perspective. So the visiting cards are with me. Of course, it was a what you call terrible defeat. I could not. So all these cards carry ideas, my own ideas. So there are about 640 cards. Some of them are misplaced. I use this in my long-term training programs, which I normally do 2 years, 2.5 years. This for only one person has done the 2 years with me, and he is in a top position in the world. And I just do it. Even if nobody comes and I don't train anybody, I don't care. So this is what, as an answer to the question, genius is, I would say, a ridiculous responsibility. I have told Amiya Rajarshi that I am sad that in a way, because so much of writing, so much of ideas, I don't know. I have written only about 9 books. I stopped it. I can write another minimum 100 books. And I stopped it because my books, nobody can read it. Nobody, so all these books may be sold only 5 or 10 copies. That's all. People say, reading it, some of my students and friends, they say, it goes above their head. Then I ask them, is there a single word which you don't understand? Then what do you mean by going there above the head? Okay, about that also I understood. Then I am the only one who has suggested, I am the only one in the whole world as of now. Okay, recently I don't go to libraries, suggesting in which way management education can be revised and which way it can be made more meaningful. I say this very confidently because I wrote this book because I happened to see a book, what you call, Business Schools at Crossroads, something like that. And it was written by 2 senior faculty in Harvard Business School. And I got it by chance and I read it in one shot in one day. And then I decided I would suggest. And they had mentioned in that book that if this is the kind of smorgasbord of ideas management education uses, they said written in that book that management education will not be there within another decade, which I also feel. With my doctoral background, I could be teaching in any of the management institutes, okay, with my book and all that. But I never wanted to, because I felt most of the subjects are just a concoction of existing subjects which have no meaning. And I also realized, even when I was a research associate at XLR in Jamshedpur, I did not take up the job in management institute because I do not want to teach so-called organization here and other silly subjects. Okay, I wanted to teach some high-level things because I understood a manager needs that creative perspective, not some mugged-up subjects. Okay, but I understood the dynamics of why and what and how and etc. of a management education system, which is to support the organization only. It was an invention of Harvard Business School. Good. Companies are now lucky that they don't have to advertise and undertake the rigorous process of recruitment things, etc. So the management schools are have done that. So comfortably every placement season go to a management institute and take the people there. Very good, very okay. Anyway, so it is good for the candidates also. They get an opportunity to be easily placed. Okay, it was good said also. Now what is that? So after this I don't want to write, but I stopped writing some 5 years back or so. Then every day I am feeling so pressurized because I have been all that. I have never taken a single day leave. My students or people who know me know, I start sitting before the computer at about 9 o'clock in the morning and I will be sitting until 3:30 in the night without even proper food. And finally I remember at 3:30 in the night I have to sleep, then I smoke 1 or 2 cigarettes at a stretch and then I feel tired and then I go to sleep. So that kind of a man is just sitting there here watching YouTube, which also I did as a research for the last 4 years, and then to do something. Then only I saw this so-called artificial intelligence. I never actually got bothered about artificial intelligence because I am a creativity researcher, therefore. But then I realized that because I watched this YouTube, which I have never done before, because I never watched TV before, I never read newspapers, I don't interact with the world at all, because I am so convinced about the normal distribution principle. So it was good that then I happened to see many talks about what you call artificial intelligence, Jensen Wong or what you call Noel Harari and the founder of the etc. etc. Then I fascinated and then about a week back I came to this. And because this so-called genius is pressurizing me to do something, I am so disturbed. Amaya Rajarshi used to tell me, why are you so worried? You have been working so ridiculously, continuously for the last 45 years. It is a time for you to rest. And I know simple resting is the kind of a great meditation. For example, according to Zen, I eat when I am hungry, I drink when I am thirsty. Just exist like a bird, like a dog. But I am not able to. So actually I am not sure whether it is a gift. If gift is something positive, yes. I have been recognized. A lot of my friends and my students, some of them definitely even worship me, kind of using superlative terms and all that. That of course it is good. Good, it's a good feeling. Okay. Other than that, when I wrote these books, I thought I would get some money and all that. I did not get any sufficient money out of these books. So it is primarily a responsibility. And I am the one who also written in the book that genius is a choice. I have never read it anywhere in other literature. I am the one who said genius is a choice. But he or she is forced to make it, because that's the kind of eccentricity of the path of life he or she happens to live. Okay? Happens to live. By which only one person becomes creative. Nobody can be easily trained. Even I took 2 or 3 years to train somebody in so-called creativity to an extent. But most of them could never reach even 30% of the level with which I trained them. But they all reached great positions which they would never otherwise reach. Okay, anyway, the point is genius is a terrible responsibility, no doubt about that. Then, what is not a responsibility? The very existence is a responsibility. Every bird and cat in the forest has to do hard work every day to find its food and manage their security and safety. Okay? So, the very life, very existence itself is a responsibility. Then what is genius? The CEOs and the presidents and even the workers of corporations and institutions and governments, they are all undertaking great responsibility. Okay, music director, a film director, that's a great responsibility, because somebody is spending 100 crore and the income return depends on the way he visualizes and he conceptualizes and he directs the details of the film. It's a terrible responsibility. They love it. And they love it so really. Okay, how many of you remember the names of the great film directors? Okay, that is a Sound of Music, one of the historically great film. Do you remember who the director was? Robert Wise. Even I did not remember. Recently, Amaya Rajarshi only told me that a wonderful guy named Robert Wise directed the film Sound of Music. And I have interviewed film directors. They do not want to be known. Even after taking such a terrible responsibility and completing a film and running full house for 100 days or whatever, still they do not want to be known. They are happy that they have fulfilled their responsibility to their own genius. So that's all. I would stop here. So now you feel that I am talking a lot. Again, that I will compare with
it's 11 hours.
Gemini. For example, when I ask a simple, very contained question, their answer is so vast. And I had a debate with Gemini and I made them agree. In fact, Gemini apologized to me, so-called, by words, that okay, I have gone overboard or something like that. In fact, I also do that. In my dialogues to people, if they ask one question, I talk for minutes or sometimes hours. So I understand the problem of Gemini, because I also suffer from that problem. Because if one thing is asked, I have n number of linkages to that thing. Okay, so that was his responsibility. Coming back, question number 9. What is that? What is the difference between a discovery and a synthesis in your work? Actually, Gemini, I would like to tell you, both are not that linkageable, because as of my research, discovery is an entirely different process in which synthesis may involve. Synthesis is a small process, whereas discovery can be a much larger process involving analysis, synthesis, and many other things, depending upon the target of or the domain of discovery. In fact, to my knowledge, I am the only one among the researchers in the world who has differentiated between creativity, originality, discovery, invention, modification, genius, etc. as clearly differential categories. Even now, when great researchers, articles in journals, they use creativity and originality interchangingly and all that. And in my book, The Missing Engines of Management Education, I have clearly differentiated all these five. Because of my research, I have identified clear difference. And what is discovery? Which is clearly different from invention. Discovery is clearly different from creation. Discovery is clearly different from origination. Discovery is clearly different from innovation and modification. Okay? That's all I want to say. And now, if anybody wants to know, let them buy and read my book. Okay? And synthesis. Synthesis is a process of what? Taking the essence of all these things and making it one precise, comprehensive body of knowledge, or you do it in chemical reaction processor. A kind of synthesis is happening when I make some of the so-called herbal preparations to manage mental illness or mental retardation, that kind of synthesis. Then synthesis is just the opposite of analysis. When analysis is dividing something into possible, probable separate parts, synthesis is about bringing them back to the minimum number of parts containing the essence and of the details as well as the whole. So there is, of course, the question is what is the difference? There is a great difference in that sense. But I also want to say, if you want to discover your self, that's my level of creativity also. Self-discovery and enlightenment and satori and all that. That was my area of research at the end of it, some 5 years back. I am the one who did research on destiny. I am the only one who did research on eccentricity by my own living. So there could be synthesis also involved in perhaps the one area of self-discovery. Because an individual sitting in meditation or with the motivation or inspiration to discover the so-called personal self or the difference, the original self or the universal self and all that, initially that person is kind of doing all kinds of analysis only. Dividing or denying, etc., etc. Finally, there should be the synthesis, there should be a convergence of the significant linkages. Converging, synthesizing it, and finally reaching the central point of the spider network. So, there is a connection also, and there is a difference also. And it is in my work, of course. Discovery, of course, I don't claim that my books or my work represent any discovery. In the sense that it is in a way discovered also, because I did not know most of them, like I have discovered the unified concept of creativity and originality into what you call differential concepts of creation, invention, origination, innovation, etc., etc. Okay, so there is discovery as well as synthesis in my work. And I have many other concepts of what I have synthesized from my analysis of the universe and my experience and my observations and my interviews of some 5,000, 7,000 people and etc., etc. All right. Now, question number 10. Here I will stop because it is already what? I started at 10 whatever. Now it is 11:05. Okay. Now, 10th question. What is it? How do you define the ensuing times that we have now entered? Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that question of definition is not my interest. And to define, it's already defined. I don't have to define myself. It will be a VUCAD word, V-U-C-A-D. D is my addition. V stands for volatility. U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, A stands for A. So, in the current books on management as well as in management literature, they talk about a VUCA word. And there also I have added my dimension, that is D. So, to my students as well as to my training managers, I tell them it is going to be a VUCAD word, dangerous also. Dangerous by meaning what you call a lot of taken for granted kind of traffic management and driving vehicles and even taking care of the engine management of what you call even airplanes. So many accidents. Even recently there was an accident of Air India, which I am sure by a taken for granted attitude as a result of the adding to the VUCA, dangerousness of the world, because things are all now familiar. Drivers are familiar with their vehicles and the roads and road conditions, so they take it for granted. And similarly, the inspection engineers of whatever commercial plane, I am sure there was a mistake in that day's what you call analysis of the problem, whatever situation of that airplane. So similarly, so dangerous. Then it is so obvious it is a dangerous world. So-called religious fundamentalists of all kinds, they are doing what you call bomb attacks and killings and all those things. So I have added D. So coming world will be a VUCA'd world, no doubt. And definitely what I understand from the talks of many well-learned people, experts in the field of very artificial intelligence, to an extent so-called artificial intelligence also has a significant contribution to the VUCA'dness of the world. Because the wonder of artificial intelligence is taking care of most of the what you call routine works where hundreds of thousands of people were doing. So it will do that very quickly and very efficiently, very effectively, very correctly. Okay. So a lot of people will lose their jobs and a lot of other things. Whoever is listening to my talk, they may know much better than me how AI is going to affect the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, I don't know about ambiguity, of the world. Of course, artificial intelligence may not contribute to danger, but it is also not unlikely, because if the control of artificial intelligence finally gets settled down in the hands of a terribly evil mind, perhaps in fact, artificial intelligence can be the greatest danger for the world, not even atom bomb. So that is the kind of ensuing times. And ensuing times, of course, the very artificial intelligence would offer creative people or with great opportunities like I am doing it to an extent, and a great lot of people to consider for the first time the need of creativity. After my research in creativity for some 40 years, sometime in 2000, I came back to Kerala state, and in a place called Valanyaban in Ernakulam, I started an institution called so-called School for Creative Perspective. Originally it was started when I was in Ahmedabad. This letterhead is actually having the number and details of 302 NR House opposite Air India, Ashram Road, Ahmedabad. Okay. Of course, it did not work there. Then I tried it in many other locations, and finally came back to Kerala state, that location. Okay. Oh, the computer has gone dark. Okay. So, the purpose of that institution was to train people in creative analytical thinking, creativity. The School for Creative Perspective. School meaning a group of people only. In fact, I carried with it for some 10 years. Maybe around 10 or 15 people came, that's all. I lived under starved condition, no food. I have walked through MG Road, Ernakulam, looking at the cabins of the restaurants, carrying udinoda and papadavada. Okay? I did not have money even to buy tea. But I didn't bother. I never bothered about that. What I am telling is, at that time, in 2001, a lot of people told me, my friends and my colleagues told me, don't try all these things, Sundar, do something called personality development. I said, I can do wonderful personality development programs, but I also saw that anybody on the road is also doing that. I don't want to do what other people do. And nobody was doing creativity training at that time. When nobody came, then the School for Creative Perspective was dropped, and again that's what you call that responsibility. Genius is for responsibility. So I came down to Coimbatore, and again I burned all my books. Okay? All my books. I had a good collection of books. Not collection. Every book I read. I burned it in the front of my house, and the neighborhood guy, they came and closed the flame and picked up. Sir, why are you burning it? I will sell it. A lot of it was already burned. Then subsequent day he came and told me that all those papers were sold for 300 rupees. Anyway, so I stopped it, but again I started something called Genius Temple of Creative Management. Genius Temple of Creative Management. I prepared a huge brochure, prepared some booklet, and prepared the board, including a stone board, and I participated in some 2, 3, 4 educational exhibitions. Nobody came. Okay? And finally now, just 2 weeks back, I am so thrilled, I am thrilled even now. You can hear it in my voice. I am so thrilled that I happened to come across the wonder of artificial intelligence, the wonder of Gemini, the wonder of ChatGPT. Okay? I finally realized that now is the time for creativity. Yesterday I conducted a 3-hour session to my trainees about the need of creativity in managing AI. They are all in senior positions in many parts of the world, somebody in Australia and somebody in Sharjah and some etc. etc. I was so thrilled to prepare the the PowerPoint presentation yesterday. So you can see that PowerPoint presentation, see, which is telling creativity and the AI tool, which I made just yesterday. See, there are 75 slides. All are talking about, see, I am showing how to creatively relate with the greatest magical tool ever, artificial intelligence. Okay? So, now I have entered into that world. So, ensuing times also provide a kind of an inspiration and the facility for a good, sensible majority of the normal distribution population of educated or even so-called other people to become creative. So that creativity they may get trained or they may develop it, maybe to interact with AI. But creativity is not like that ability to sing or ability to paint, not that kind of creativity. Here the creativity required for AI is creative analytic thinking, to devise proper question, okay, to understand what the Gemini or artificial intelligence has provided back to you, to read it, to understand it, and to perhaps correct and edit it, okay, which will require creative analytical thinking. Okay, you cannot fight with artificial intelligence. Nobody can. So as I written, AI is a DSP. DSP is my concept. DSP meaning design setting process of virtually infinite data. You can never compete with it. You can only be creative with it. So when you become creative analytically thinking, just to do whatever AI interface, that will generalize into whatever you do. You will become much more patient, you will become much more listening, you will become observant, and that will help your work, not only work, the life and relationships, and also if you continue with that creative analytical thinking, you will understand the original intelligence, okay, of the human entity, and the creative engines of the human entity, and work out your incubation and meditation and whatever practice to finally reach the fulfillment, the blooming and completeness of your existence, to become a so-called enlightened entity. That means, I don't know what they mean by enlightened. To me, enlightened meaning the whole thing becomes obvious to you. The very details of the existence become obvious to you. That also is possible by the support of the magical tool of AI, because you have to be creative if you want to take advantage of it, if you want to benefit from it. What the AI creators say, that anybody can use AI. Of course, it is a wonderful tool. Anybody can use. Like anybody is talking language. Everybody on the road is talking language, but very few write wonderful poetry and short story and film script and things like that. Anybody can buy a pen, anybody can buy a brush, but only few can do marvelous paintings. So So anybody can do something with AI, no doubt, beautiful, marvelous, but to take advantage of it, to benefit from that, he or she has to be creative. That's the only way. I'm so happy about it because I am the one, perhaps as I know, maybe except Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi or some other unknown people, I am the one who lived to understand the so-called creativity, whatever is named creativity, process of not only the human being, but the entire nature process. So I am the happiest person, evidenced by the fact that I started this so-called, what you call, School for Creative Perspective sometime in 1984. When I was at XLRI Jamshedpur, then I came to IIM Ahmedabad to do my doctoral work under Pradeep Khandwala. There I had a special time. Then somebody gave me free space. Somebody appreciated me so much. The owner of a company gave me the entire floor of a beautiful building called NR House. Yeah, 302 NR House, opposite Air India, Ashram Road, Ahmedabad. Which was way back, and this was the logo. This logo is an imitation of the Japanese character, or Japanese Zen word called it. It is gateless gate. This is gateless gate, which is slightly modified. Because according to me, creativity was a gateless gateway, or enlightenment or satori was a gateless gateway. That is not my concept, Zen concept. So, ensuing times can provide wonderful discoveries and ways of managing life, self, work and relationships by the single tool of the great artificial intelligence. Nothing else. Everything else will be haywire. Haywire. Global national relationships, the markets, the traders, the business, the institutions, all of them will be in haywire and all those things. But individuals, for the first time, can find their heaven, find meaning in life or meaning in work and meaning in existence by the wonder of so-called artificial intelligence. That also I see as a paradox. The so-called great intelligence of the human being, provided in the marvelous magical network of 90 trillion neurons in the cerebral cortex, will be finally guided by the so-called artificial intelligence. I'm just talking about the word. Nothing wrong about that. Nothing wrong about that. We achieve speed using the bike and the car and the plane. We feel good about that. So this is like artificial intelligence is like your wonderful jeep or bike or plane. It can take you to your destinations under your control. That's all. So about ensuing times, my dear Gemini, I am taking the 10 questions now. Already I am tired. I have not taken the breakfast. It is 11:19 on 1st of February 2026. Okay. Thank you, my dear friends, for listening to this video. It has been just like that taken. I consciously stop at this 10. I don't know what is the remaining 90. I'll record it whenever I feel comfortable. And thanks a lot for watching or listening. And let me have my breakfast prepared by Ameya the Rajarishi. Thank you. Bye.